Members, we are back in session. We could have your attention. We have some additional guest introductions. Special guests with us in the assembly today. Mr. Chu, you are recognized for your guest introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to recognize some guests from my district who are in the Capitol, who are up in the gallery today. They are students and leaders from one of our state's finest law schools at UC Hastings, who are visiting today for their lobby day. If you could please join me in welcoming UC Hastings.
Mr. Hernandez, you are recognized at your desk, sir.
Mr. Speaker and members, colleagues, today I'd like to welcome to our assembly floor Ms. Blanca Rubio. Ms. Rubio is a member of the Baldwin Park Unified Board of Education. She's been there for 12 years, and she is also a school teacher that served many of our students throughout San Gabriel Valley for many, many years. Please help me and join me in welcoming her, giving her the big assembly welcome. Thank you.
Members, we are moving to business on the daily file. Business on the daily file, the second reading.
Assembly Bill 899, 889 with amendments, 721 with amendments, 1, 451, 495, 823, 896, 644 with amendments, 778 with amendments, 578 with amendments, 881, 494 with amendments, 998 with amendments, 159 with amendments, 869 with amendments, 404 with amendments, and 421 with amendments.
All bills will be deemed read and amendments deemed adopted. Moving to Assembly, third reading. File item 19, pass and retain. File item 20, ACR 29, for the purpose of amendments. Clerk will read with amendments.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 29 with amendments by Assemblymember Frazier.
Mr. Frazier, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. The amendments of ACR 29, the DMV Donate Life Month, are a technical correction and the addition of co-authors. I respectfully ask for your aye vote on the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier. Without objection, we may take a voice vote on the amendments. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Bill is out to print and back on file. File items 22 through 33, pass and retain. Moving to file item 34, that's AB 60. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 60 by Assemblymember Gonzalez and others, an act relating to immigration services, declaring the urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Ms. Gonzalez, you may open.
Mr. Speaker, members, in 2013 we passed and the governor signed into law AB 1159 to prevent immigration attorneys, consultants, and notarios from luring people into paying money prior to the enactment of Immigration Reform Act passed by Congress. AB 60 is a consumer protection measure which will extend the existing protections to 1.5 million Californians that may someday be eligible to seek relief under the President's executive actions. The injunction made by the federal judge in Texas creates a large window of opportunity for predatory practices in our state. We may or may not ever have federal action. We believe it is an ethical practice to charge consumers for program services that have not been formally implemented and may never be. Services with an independent value are permitted under this law, such as services to prevent removal from the United States. Members, fraud is fraud, no matter who it's waged against. This is just a protective measure for all immigrants in California right now. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Mr. Wagner, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of this measure. A couple of years ago, the president very famously said that he can't just use executive order to make a law and change the rules. He then, about a year later, decided that that wasn't in fact true, that he could. And some on my side of the aisle see that as a reason to object to this particular provision. Let me just say, since this is a two-thirds bill, and I do urge the folks on my side of the aisle to support it, the fact that some of us would argue, I think very convincingly, that the President's actions are unconstitutional and not in the best tradition of this country, certainly not as designed by our framers, that doesn't give unscrupulous attorneys the right to act and commit fraud to anyone who's here in the country legally or illegally. This is a provision that says we are going to stop our attorneys from practicing fraud. And who the victim is should not matter. The mere fact that an attorney is attempting to perpetrate a fraud on anyone is reason enough for this legislature on both sides of the aisle to rise up and say, no, that is not right. Let's send this to the Senate unanimously because it absolutely deserves your support, and I urge an aye vote.
Seeing no additional discussion or debate, Ms. Gonzalez, you may close.
Again, we may disagree about whether the executive order issued or not yet issued by the Obama administration is a good thing or a bad thing. We may disagree about whether it'll be ever implemented, but I think we can agree that it's wrong to charge people for a service that doesn't currently exist and, unfortunately, as far as I'm concerned, may never. So I hope that you'll join us in voting aye.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. With that, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. So two-thirds bill members, all members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the vote. Ayes 76, no 0 on the urgency. Ayes 76, no 0 on the bill. Measure passes. Moving to file item 35, ACR 50. The clerk will read.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 50 by Assemblymember Gonzalez relative to Equal Pay Day.
Ms. Gonzalez, you may again open.
Mr. Speaker and members, Equal Pay Day was established in 1996 by the National Committee on Pay Equity to create public awareness about the gap between men and women's wages. Tomorrow, Tuesday, April 14th, symbolizes the date in 2015 when the wages paid to American women catch up to wages paid to men from the previous year due to making an average of 78 cents on the dollar nationally. Even in California, women only earn 84 cents on the dollar of every man. When compared to the wages of white male counterparts, black women in California are paid 63 cents. And Latinas, well, we do the worse. In California, we earn a mere 44 cents on the dollar of our white male counterparts. Because 4 in 10 mothers are primary breadwinners in their households, and nearly 2/3 are the significant earners, pay equity is critical to the economic security of all California families. With us today are local members of the American Association of University Women up in the gallery, a national organization dedicated to equal pay issue, among many others. I would like to ask that the first roll be open for co-authors, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Mr. Dodd, you are recognized.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. National Equity Pay Day is a day to reflect on the fact that a staggering 104 additional average full-time days a woman would have to work to put in as much as a man earns annually. Why should my granddaughter make less for doing the same work as my grandson? Why should any woman make less for doing the same work? They shouldn't, but unfortunately they do. We've heard some stark statistics this morning. This is not just a problem for women, but our whole society. Income inequality shortchanges families and adds to retirement insecurity. Closing the pay gap about gender equality, but it's also about equal opportunity. It's about making families stronger. It's about improving our entire economy. And it's about leaving California a better place than we found it. I'm glad our state legislature is taking this issue seriously, and I appreciate Assemblymember Gonzalez for authoring this resolution. Please join me in support of ACR 50.
Thank you, Mr. Dodd. Mr. Eduardo Garcia, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of this floor. As chair of the Assembly Committee on Jobs, economic development and economy, I rise in support of ACR 50. As I represent Imperial County, which is one of the counties with the highest unemployment rates, the gender gap in wages is a crucial issue to my constituents and for the state of California as a whole. It is important for members of this body and our Senate, both Republicans and Democrats, that we stimulate and promote solutions and policies that will ensure equal pay for all Californians. I want to thank the author for bringing this resolution forward, and I also just want to highlight that I believe that my nine-month-old baby Ella from Coachella deserves to get paid equally for an equal amount of work that she does, and I respectfully ask this committee to say aye on this measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Mr. Chavez, you are recognized.
Yes, I'd also like to rise in support of ACR. I know when I read the report here, there's a lot of discussion about facts and numbers and college graduates and details and is this measure really required? But I would submit to my colleagues that it's a good place to be politically. It's a good place to be because it's the right thing. So I'd ask everybody to support this resolution. Thank you.
Ms. Garcia, you are recognized.
Mr. Speaker, members, I rise in strong support of ACR 50. The Legislative Women's Caucus has made securing women's economic security as one of our highest priorities. Pay fairness is one of the pillars that will help us all rise to equity. As Assemblywoman Gonzalez just mentioned, the more we as women have on our shoulders, the less we are paid. This isn't fair, it isn't equitable, and it's time that we change now. If you're a woman, you get paid less. If you're Latina, you get paid even less. If you're a mother, you get paid even less. The topic has been researched and discussed for 6 decades. At the rate we are going, if we continue, it'll take another 45 years before we get to pay equity. I strongly urge and I vote.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Seeing no further discussion or debate, Ms. Gonzalez, you may close.
Thank you. While we can debate the merits of the numbers and chosen careers in college education, I would just ask you to consider this. In the United States today, if you are a Latina surgeon or physician, you make 46 cents on the dollar of your white male counterpart. There is no difference in education. There is no difference in chosen field. The only difference is who you are as an individual. We have a problem in this country. We have a problem here in California. Sooner or later, we need to be serious about addressing this problem. I ask that the roll be open for co-authors, and I ask for your aye vote.
Ms. Gonzalez is asking that the first roll be open for co-authors on ACR 50. The clerk will open the roll. All members vote a desire to vote. Members, this is for co-authors. Co-authors on ACR 50. All members vote wishing to add as co-authors. There are 57 co-authors added on ACR 50. Without objection, we may take a voice vote on this item. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Ms. Gonzalez, back to you for your guest introduction. Is that news to you, Ms. Gonzalez?
That is news to me. I believe I introduced them during the presentation. With us today in the gallery is local members of the American Association of University Women, a national organization dedicated to the equal pay issue, among many others. Thank you.
Members, we are moving to the consent calendar. Does any member wish to remove an item from the consent calendar? Seeing and hearing none, the clerk will read the second day consent calendar.
Assembly Bill 380 by Assemblymember Waldron, an act relating to marriage.
The clerk will open the roll on the consent calendar. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the vote. Ayes 78, noes none. The consent calendar is adopted.
Assembly Bill 468.
Ayes 78, no 0.
Assembly Bill 555.
Ayes 78, no 0.
Assembly Bill 593.
Ayes 78, no 0.
Assembly Bill 731.
Ayes 78, no 0.
And Assembly Joint Resolution 6.
Ayes 78, no 0. We will now move to announcements and adjournments in memory. Request to adjourn in memory. The following members were granted prior permission to speak on an adjournment in memory. Mr. Stone, you are recognized at your desk. Members, please give your attention to Mr. Stone.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I rise today with a heavy heart to note the passing of Judge Bob Yonts of Santa Cruz County. Now, Judge Yonts had a wonderful career as a judge and as a retired judge, and with all the appropriate accolades. And in fact, he was the mediator of choice for many people in Santa Cruz County because of his demeanor, his attention to detail, and his ability to bring people together. But I rise today because of what Bob Yonts meant in our community across the board. If there was a kid at risk, Bob was there for them. He was always helping to raise money, standing up for the kids in our community who need us the most. Foster kids, drug-addicted kids, kids who need that second chance and that opportunity. In fact, as a dependency judge, he really led the way in forming the relationships with most of the kids who would come through his courtroom, and in a way that engaged them, brought them together, and gave them hope for the future. He died last Thursday after a tragic fall the previous weekend, so this was sudden in the community and something that was not expected by he or his family. And we are really missing now a pillar in our community and someone who stood for those who had no voice, those who we need to pay most attention to. He will be sorely missed, and I ask that we adjourn today's session in his memory. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. Please bring the names to the desk to be printed in the journal. All requests to adjourn in memory will be deemed read and printed in the journal. The session schedule is as follows. Tuesday, April 14th, check-in session. Wednesday, April 15th, check-in session. Thursday, April 16th, floor session at 9 a.m. All other items remaining will be passed and retained. All motions shall be continued. Seeing and hearing no further business, I am ready to entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Holden moves, Ms. Waldron seconds, that this House stands adjourned until Thursday, April 16th at 9 a.m. Quorum call is lifted.